One of the most enjoyable manifestations of my profession over the years has been teaching group lessons of children. And uh, Parents obviously understand that golf brings a lot to the table when it comes to the development of their children. So parents love the idea that golf lessons are available. They get that the self-application of rules, the sense of personal responsibility, and a whole bunch of other disciplines that golf demands of you are valuable life skills. Apart from that, once kids hit a couple of good golf shots, they'll want to play, and parents also know that it could be a game for a lifetime and very possibly one that they can share with their children. So with group lessons, the trick is to find the kids. And of course, if you're somebody new in my profession, you're probably at a golf club. You can use email, of course, and you can put flyers up in the restrooms. But I want to tell you that, particularly here in the States, many environments have charter schools, which are essentially privately paid schools or state paid private schools. And they're very much populated by people that homeschool their kids for a variety of reasons. And they seem to be particularly enthusiastic about golf. They're also very smart children, is what I've learned, and that seems to be rather fun too. I've met some that were smarter than me, and they were six. I'm not kidding. So, with regard to the charter schools particularly, be prepared to go and get what here in California they call a live scan. What is that? It's a way of proving that your background is appropriate for teaching children. And I've actually known golf pros who gave up a wonderful opportunity for teaching because they just wouldn't go and do that simple task. It's not quite simple. I remember the first time I did it, it took over half an hour because they just couldn't get my fingers to leave an imprint that made any sense. I really think that was more operator error on their part. Subsequent occasions have all been successful. And once you've got that live scan, then you can go to these charter schools and demonstrate that you're a resource for them, and they love that. They pay generously and they're well organized, so I recommend it. Now, when it comes to the groups, the kids, you're often asked, well, what age will you teach? And the tradition in golf is 7 to 17 with children. First of all, I would suggest that you don't limit yourself to one specific age group. My experience has been that if you do a multi-age from 7 to 17, or even a little younger, I used to say 6 to 17, it's a bit like a Montessori, if you're familiar with that. And that multi-age discipline, I think, matches golf extremely well. I even encourage older relatives to accompany the kids if the structure of how you're organizing the group lessons allows for it. Now, I say 6 to 17. I just anecdotally want to tell you, I mentioned a moment ago, I've met some 6-year-olds who are smarter than me. A few times over the years, I've had parents come to me having seen that restriction and said, look, I have a 5-year-old who can handle it. My answer is, let's try, but be willing to accompany the kid and stay for the class. That's the parent. Here's what I've found. When a parent says that their 5-year-old can handle it, not only is it true always, but in fact, they're very often smarter than kids twice their age. And so it's a wonderful thing to be around a 5-year-old that you're pretty sure is smarter than you and who just looks and watches everything you do and absorbs it. It's beautiful. So 6, possibly 5 to 17, multi-age is lovely. And parents should be encouraged to join in if the circumstances allow. So I generally do a 4 one-hour series. And of course, you try to time it so that the kids are available. Now, that's another benefit of the charter school kids. They can very often do a class in the middle of the day where a regular school child would have to do it after school or on the weekends. And so I sometimes would do 2 a week for 2 weeks, other times 1 a week for 4 weeks. And I would generally approach the beginner class as if somebody's never touched a golf club, which is highly likely with the 6-year-olds. And that brings up the issue of the clubs. I have several sets of junior clubs, and they're distinguished. 5 to 9 is one set, and then 10 to 14 is the other. In other words, size, and left and right-handed. And I have those available if the kids don't have them. Most kids do, actually, because particularly their grandparents very much want them to learn to play golf, and so they've bought them already. So have the clubs available. Encourage them to bring water and a hat if it's hot climate, raincoat if it's rainy, and warm clothes. And the only time I would ever call off a lesson is if there's thunder and lightning in the area. That's a complete no deal. So that's how I get started. Now my 4 classes fall into these categories. The first one is the basics of how to form a golf swing, which I'll get into. Also chipping, which I do on virtually every class that I do a group lesson of, because repetition is wonderful in golf. And if you do it every time, just at the beginning, it can be done very neatly. And it builds on their confidence and their ability and gives you a chance to correct any errors. And then I teach the full swing in the context of short iron, like a 7 or an 8 iron off a tee. And then on the second lesson, go to a fairway wood off the tee and the short iron off the ground. And then on the third lesson, I just do exclusively putting because it's such an important part of golf. And on the fourth lesson, introduce a fairway wood off the tee, a fairway wood off the ground, a short iron off the ground, and perhaps an end of series competition. And with regard to the competitions, which are always something that I do throughout all of the classes constantly, I would suggest that you have a bunch of nearly new balls, as I call them. A shiny and nearly new ball is the prize that I give to the kids for everything I do, whoever wins. And maybe you can devise a scorecard if you come up with something a little more elaborate. But they do love competition, and I encourage you to do it whenever you can. So that's the overview of how to formulate what you're doing. And now I'll get into the details of what I do on each lesson.